Gary, I've covered digital twins off and on for a few years now, and it seemed to me that the term digital twins has been thrown around a lot lately as a marketing phrase, applied to applications that are really just digital representations of things, and often with an impressive graphical component. So I guess I have to ask, what is your definition of a true digital twin?
Yeah, I think that's one of the key points is the word true, right? So for me, digital twins have been in the past a virtualization of an object that allows for simulation. What they've kind of evolved to is more of a digital twin being a virtualization of more of a entity. So it's a bit more of a, I can have an inanimate entity, which might be a plane, and I've seen some of your work around planes, that I can then visualize and then start to simulate around planes and do simulations. But also I can do it as an animate object of, say, a human being, and I can then start to apply certain things around what I would do as a human being and my health. So those to me are sort of the areas, and then they're really for the purpose of simulation and for process optimization would be where I'd see digital twin fitting.
How important is it to maintain a clear differentiation from similar or related technologies so that the AI driven type of digital twin will bring the kinds of breakthroughs that you envision in the life sciences?
Yeah, I think that's key. There are all sorts of things you could call digital twins, but the reality is it's a very complex area if you really want to get into, for life science, the use of those capabilities. You need to make sure it's going to be accurate, useful and trusted in a way that you can then use it within your simulations, for your in silico trials, and for the purpose of any optimizations that you're trying to do in your life science work.
I understand you've been exploring the use of AI with digital twins. What kind of AI are we talking about? Is it only the more recent generative AI, or is it also the older types of machine learning that were out for a while and having some success, or maybe a combination of those two?
It tends to be a combination. This is really a journey when it comes to life science. And things have been going on for years where they've been taking statistical models. Some people start to call those AI, and there's really statistical models. Then you start to move into more of the learned models from machines, machine learning through the data flow that you're putting in. And the question is what the data volume that you're putting in and the level of complexity of that. And so you're seeing the evolving aspects of AI becoming better, and over time they are more specific. That is really helping to start to utilize these digital twins in the life science process.
Thinking back again to when I first started writing about this, it seemed as if there was a sort of symbiosis between AI and digital twins and synergies, I guess, to use a commonly used word, where they improve each other. That a digital twin in some ways could maybe improve AI in ways that wouldn't otherwise be possible, and vice versa. Is that a valid thing to say? And if so, how do you see that playing out?
It is a valid thing to say as long as there's caution. So, you see the regulatory authorities today, they're positive towards it. There's quite a few regulations that are coming through around in silico technologies. There's a willingness to engage in those. But the fact is you've got to trust the AI that you're putting in and using to do what it needs to do. So just because I can simulate a potential digital twin of a human doesn't mean that that's going to work well when it comes to simulation in a way that's going to be able to give me an accurate representation of that individual or many types of individuals, because there's so many types of people as humans that we're very different in the way that our genetics and the way that the social aspects of what we do and how we're brought up and the location of where we're brought up all have factors on our health. So just having a model of a digital twin and then using that is not necessarily going to give you the accuracy that you need. So that's where you have to be cautious in the approach. But otherwise, there's positivity towards this symbiotic relationship between AI learning and developing better, more personalized aspects over time, at the same time then being used within these simulations.
What entities or processes within healthcare are you folks at IQVIA and maybe others in the industry building digital twins of?
Certainly in IQVIA, we focus on what our customers need. We do cover the gambit of life science. So whether it's in the healthcare industry or it's in the pharma industry, we do consulting around certain things like drug discovery, through to then the clinical trial running. And there's the gambit of being able to utilize digital twins for process optimization, but also through the drug discovery in the early stage of planning and designing of trials, through to then the healthcare elements. But from an industry broader aspect, you start to see more specific things. We mentioned the heart. It could be the eye, for example, and starting to make twins of those, and then starting to see the variability in relation to what is that disease condition that's happening to that eye, let's say macular degeneration. And as such, for that very, very specific case in that therapeutic area, what are the potentials that I can use this tool for? So it's really layered as to the different levels of where you're going. And because the human body is so complex with so many different moving parts, you have to really focus in on those. And that's where you get a lot of experts really honing in on those specific areas.
So how far away are we from having a good digital twin of an entire patient?
Oh, I think we're definitely far off. I mean, I think, and you hear that from our medical colleagues, and that's absolutely justified. We're not expecting miracles to happen overnight, because you need to create a digital twin that is specific to, for example, myself. I know the history of myself. I know what is recorded digitally right now in my medical records. It's not going to cover everything. It doesn't know where I lived, where I was brought up, where I went on vacation, how long I was in the sun for, which could lead to a eventuality of my white skin having problems with skin cancer. Who knows? It doesn't know my genetics. So there's a lot of information that's not there. And until that information is there, to make a digital twin of myself for my health, it's going to be hard. But there are aspects you can bring when you start to look at more the broader set of data that's available to you in real world, in population information, that start to get trends. And those trends can at least be helpful towards understanding, the areas of health to be focused on. And then you have the other aspects of genetics, where you can start collaborating on genetic information that can help deep dive into potential for drug discovery. So there's pieces, but there's lots of different pieces, but there's no real collected together entity.
How complete a representation does a digital twin need to be of an individual patient for people to derive value from it? So maybe another way of also asking the question is, are there certain subsystems or certain aspects of a patient that are the most beneficial to modeling through a digital twin, and where the quicker payoffs will come?
Yes, I think the lower hanging fruit is going to be around a digital twin of specific pieces. So we mentioned about the heart and about the eye, those kind of pieces, and what the heart does and what impacts the heart allows you to really focus in. So if I was, it was a process of, okay, I have a process that I need to run, and that process happens to be the heart. Well, we know it does certain things. And those certain things that we know it does, the common things, are able to be, made more of a digital twin, and that's where we get into that sort of virtual model, that the expectation of what you would expect a normal heart to do. And when you start to see variations from that, you can start to indicate that whether that digital twin of the heart is in comparison to what the patient themselves is recording. So I may have a heart monitor that could be on me, and it can give me real-time information, and it would start to show the variation from that digital twin standard. So it really is about setting up standard digital twins to allow us to see the variation from that can give you those insights that can then track towards, you're doing something strange as to what I expect. Let the computer monitor me and provide that indication. And it can then get into sort of things like, well, I'm a white male at a certain age, so I'm expected to have certain things at my heart at that age, versus my son, who's a nice, healthy 19-year-old, would have different parts, an earlier stage, or a slice of the time frame of expectation of the heart's capability.
What are the challenges of building these digital twins for life sciences purposes, whether they be of a process or a particular organ in the body, or maybe some pharmaceutical behavior?
The biggest challenge is clearly the data, that you can show that you've got substantial data, that you have in volume that can feed into a digital twin. That really helps And then the use of the AI tools from the point of view of what are the domain specific tools. Do you need to have unstructured content that's coming through as data that you need to structure in some way that helps to feed the understanding of the digital twin? And that's how you're starting to develop your digital twin. So construct of enough data and then enough AI tools that help you to build out that digital twin that you can then monitor against and have it as a trusted, reliable entity that you can show through your validation that you've done. And that really applies to whether it's a digital twin, a medical device, other areas of medical interpretation that you have to follow certain regulatory standards to really prove out that these things work properly.
What kinds of infrastructure improvements are needed? And I'm thinking here of things like networking, maybe connectivity, maybe data storage. Are there particular infrastructure improvements that particular companies or healthcare providers maybe typically need to put in place if they want to do these kinds of digital twins effectively?
Yes, I think we can all see from the news about and the stock market that the key ones are around the scalability of the GPUs and the speed of the processing engines. So the biggest company in the world now is the processing engine company. It's not the AI model company. It's not the digital twin company. So it really is a case of you need to have that foundation. You need to have that infrastructure, that foundational infrastructure that allows you to collect the data that you need to in the right way. The question that you're asking, then what is the answer to that? It's to be able to get the data through, to be able to get the right AI models on top of that, to be able to build out models, and that all requires a lot of processing, a lot of ingesting, a lot of standardization to be able to really get the understanding and the meaning coming out of that digital content that you're coming through as digital information, to then interpret it into those models that you want to put as digital twins. So those are really sort of that infrastructure, and you need strong scale. At IQVIA, we've put a lot of effort and time and money into that, and that has included a lot of people and a lot of time spent to get that data the right way and to consume it the right way and to be able to prove that it's been done the right way. So it really is about setting that infrastructure up.
Another thing I've noticed in the digital twin world, which has just grown so much and there's so much attention paid to it, is that often people are talking about things that are in the future or things that could be done. And that's an interesting thing to talk about, and I would like to ask you that a little later. But what about now? In what ways are digital twins, especially digital twins with AI, being used already in the life sciences applications?
There was just an article that's come out around in silico technology. So in silico technology is really the use of computational methods to be able to replace the potential for trials. That's still a vision. However, the journey towards that is to be able to take certain pieces of data in specific therapeutic areas for very specific drug indications and ask the question, what is the in silico model based upon that data able to show me? And to be able to just do some testing. So the in silico really is about, instead of a human, I'm going to run lots of different simulations over this, and I'm going to see how wildly crazy it can go or how good it can go. And in doing so, I'm seeing the top and bottom of the scale of, I'm able to put some sort of construct around what the potential is. That construct is allowing me to therefore focus on where I need to focus. So I can get through from drug to discovery. I can look at the potential for drug compound, which I might have thousands of potential based upon my chemical molecular setup, thousands of potentials. I need to be able to hone that down to say 100 to be able to sort of focus in, and then I'm going to look for what's the probably best chance that this molecule could work in this area and hone that further down. And the way I do that is through these models. And that's really helping me to get that through quicker, to get through the discovery phase quicker, to get lots of potentials, possibly hidden potentials, through the pipeline, down to the specific ones that really are going to be much more chance of proving successful. And that's where I'm really using those tools to get to that point to then help me get into the clinical trial.
How do you think the applications might be different, if at all, let's say in the next 3 to 5 years? What might we be looking at in that sort of intermediate time frame?
I think certainly we're seeing lots of the big players going after the healthcare space, which is great because it's giving us a lot of data that's coming through that is going to help us build models. And then from our point of view, we want to use those models. We want to use those AI capabilities. That can be part of how that helps us get through the information. And then we're going to apply certain domain pieces. So you're going to see more domain-specific entities. So when you start talking about trials in cardiovascular with the heart, or through ophthalmology with the eye, or through skin or cancer, oncology, that's when you start getting into very much more specifics. And you need to have models in each of those areas that are very personalized down to those areas. And that's going to be a lot more of what you're seeing. Is you're going to see a lot more people saying, oh, I've specialized as a startup, I've specialized in this, I've got most of the data around this, and I'm able to do it this in, say, the ophthalmology area around the eye, allowing you therefore to say that's a very domain specific entity that I might want to plug in and use for the purpose of running a clinical trial. So it's sort of the next level of medical device. You've got medical devices that are you use, like the Apple Watch, for example, in the very simple terms. The next level is to sort of have the AI models that you can start to use as part of your clinical trial. And you're going to see the growing burgeoning of these in silico trials, therefore, as an add-on to the running of a clinical trial, so that you can really start to get your trials coming through quicker, more efficiently, with trusted aspects, and through to the FDA for approval, and hopefully a much faster time frame.
There were a lot of different, like in the IT world specifically, different market segments that were getting involved in digital twins. And one company I mentioned already, Dassault Systems, and then there's PTC. You've had companies that were very big. Their history goes back really to CAD, CAM, and 3D design. But yet there's all sorts of data related work that needs to go on. I guess I'm wondering, specifically in the digital twins for life sciences world, what types of entities in what industries tend to really be driving it right now?
A bit more of a tricky one. I mean, we've seen in the past, I think you're getting more into the healthcare space where the intention is to have the better user experience. So you'll have seen it in the CT scans as an example. You've seen more of the CT scans be able to produce much higher resolution. You've seen it in the imaging of certain for certain conditions. Those imaging and those CT scans are really helping to be able to drive a lot more volume of content and data, particularly at the higher digital resolution. That's allowing for much more very particular model development. And so that's where you're seeing it. And then the idea is to have that front end that the user's experience is, as a medical person, for example, oh, I've got somebody to come in, I can get them on a CT scan, I can now bounce their CT scan against the expected CT scan and look for variation between the two. That's going to help me pinpoint, rather than spend a really long time looking at the entire piece, pinpoint very quickly key elements that I have to target and go after. And that's what we're seeing in the healthcare space at the moment.
What is the long-term potential, or what's your vision for where this could go if all the pieces fall into place and the challenges are solved?
That's the big question. If all the pieces can be put into place, I think there's two things you have to do. That you're going to have some big orchestrators of healthcare information. To do that, you've got regulations you're going to get over about the willingness of people to provide data, and the anonymization, and the being able to show that is useful and it's not hurtful to individuals. So it's orchestrating all that together, and I think you're going to see some major players really bringing a lot of that content together as an orchestration of that can then feed into the next part, which is these more personalized, specific individual models, so that they can show people from birth to death the different aspects of how their life science changes, or how their life and health changes over time. And then that model can therefore allow you to then say, right, if you did this certain thing, like your doctor says, oh, if you eat healthier and you exercise more, well, those kind of models would actually be able to show you the impact, because they would start to show you. And then it's because it's personalized, you'll be able to start to see, right, I want to be able to tick things with my medical history and maybe just ingest the medical history and say, right, that's my baseline as an individual based off this bigger digital twin, and I'm going to be able to track me as a personalized piece and be able to use that. So as a front end, I'll be saying, hey, digital Gary, how am I doing against what I'm supposed to be doing to stay healthy? And it's going to be able to go, well, actually, because of this, and because we see these things of your medical devices telling us how your heart's doing, you're doing well. Or actually, you've kind of put on a bit of weight and it's starting to trend towards this. Now, yes, there are issues with that around the personal aspect of, is it going to tell me that? And is it going to give me the truth, the honest truth of, maybe you shouldn't have had that extra donut, Gary, but that kind of thing. But the point being is that those future pieces are going to be more of that health assistant that's going to be useful for anybody, and the way that you would set that up is through that orchestration, and then you'd be the person that says, right, I will sign up for that health assistant, and that health assistant will become more personalized to me. It's going to be secure, but it's going to be more personalized to me, and that's going to help me keep an eye on myself. Kind of like my mother on my shoulder saying, oh, have you lost weight? Or have you been exercising enough? And it's kind of my mum on the shoulder, but it's that kind of assistant that leads me to basically keep an eye on me and be the kind of person that kind of prods me to be making healthier choices.
I'm wondering if you can explain a little bit about what IQVIA does and maybe what the company is known for.
So IQVIA has come from two different angles. One was around healthcare and the other one was around pharmaceutical clinical trials. And it was brought together, and as such, the shared aspect of bringing that together has allowed us to utilize a lot of life science information that is carefully and considerately collected in a way that is not personal to anybody, but allows us to be able to look at trends in healthcare. And in doing so, those trends can help us to identify the best ways of running clinical trials, the most appropriate way of being able to find where clinical trials are best going to succeed, and to operationalize and make those as most efficient as possible. And then on the health care side, it's really about how do we engage with the more regulated, important scientific aspects to ensure that the accuracy is being applied into the healthcare area. So it's really been a good merging of those together, and we lead in that life science space in being able to look at the data, look at the process of being able to run processes in the healthcare space to make things most efficient and get the necessary information to the right individuals. That's really what IQVIA is about.
Gary, thanks for coming in today and being on the podcast.
Thank you.